Okay, so today we do only one thing, which is what is the difference between these shutdown and banking? Because last day this thing is also written here that what is called banking. So if a boiler is in the banking mode, then the boiler is isolated from the steam system at no load and keep the system operating pressure and temperature by intermittent firing either by igniters or by main burner. That means if a boiler is completely shut down, if a unit is completely shut down, then to regenerate it in the normal temperature and pressure which is sufficient to generate the electricity, it will take some time. That's why the rule is that if the time during which the plant is not committed or during which the unit is not generating the electricity, if it is less, then it should be go to the banking mode, because after few times it again need to generate, and if it is shut down within this time, it will not able to generate because it will take a long time to gain all this temperature and pressure which is required to generate the electricity. Now to understand this one, what is the difference between banking and shutdown unit, let's do one example. So here you see this is a uh, partly hourly integrated time load time curve. Here you see there are two limits are there. One is megawatt 1, another is megawatt 2. Okay. Now if the demand is less than this megawatt 1, then what happened? Then only unit 1 is committed. Committed means unit 1 will generate the electricity and that is sufficient to meet the load demand. If the load demand is less than megawatt 1. If the load demand is more than megawatt 1 but less than megawatt 2, then what happened? Then unit 1 and unit 2 will commit. Unit 3 will not committed in that time. Unit 1 and unit 2 and their generation is sufficient to meet the load demand if the load demand is between this megawatt 1 and megawatt 2. And if the load demand is more than megawatt 2, then all the unit must commit. There are only 3 units, unit 1, 2 and 3, and if the load demand is more than megawatt 2, then all the unit, that means unit 1, 2 and 3 should commit to meet the load demand. And here that is a part of an hourly integrated because it is showing from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Okay, and the graph is like this one. Now you need to find out the schedule when it is committed, which unit is committed, which unit is not committed, and if it is not committed, then is the unit should shut down or is the unit go to the banking mode. Okay, so here you see this thing is written here that 1 minute please. Okay, so here you see this one is written that I just told if the load demand is within less than megawatt 1, then which unit will commit. If it is between megawatt 1 and megawatt 2, and if it is more than megawatt 2, then all the 3 units should commit. Now here you see, now between 12 p.m. and 3 p.m. the load is less than megawatt 1. It is clearly visible here. Between 12 p.m. to this 3 p.m. the load demand is less than this megawatt 1. So within this time, obviously which unit is commit? Obviously unit 1, because according to the decision, if the load demand is less than megawatt 1, then unit 1 should commit. So it is very clear from this one. Hence unit 1 is sufficient to meet the demand. Now when the unit 1 is only generating the electricity and which is sufficient to meet the load demand, then do we shut down unit 2 or 3 or do we bank them? This is the main thing, that when the unit is not committed, when the unit is not generating the electricity, then what should we do with that unit? Should we stop it? Stop it means let the unit cool, or do we put it in the banking mode. Banking mode means the main boiler is actually disconnected from the turbine, so that turbine is not able to generate the electricity, but the operating temperature and the pressure of the steam inside the boiler should be keep as it was, just by do some intermediate firing, because the continuous firing is not needed. So this will depend on the age. What is called age? Age is the minimum time when cooling is economical for that unit. Okay, so this is the minimum time when cooling is economical for the unit. The meaning of this particular line is that, as I mentioned, that we should shut down a unit or we should put it in the banking mode is depend upon the time. How much time it will not committed to generate the electricity. And this time is defined by the age. So there is a minimum time is there. So within this minimum time, if again the unit need to be generate electricity, then we should put it in the banking mode. And if the time is more than this minimum time age, then we should put it in the shutdown mode of the individual unit. Suppose H2 equal to 3 hours and H3 equal to 4 hours. What is H2? H2 is the this minimum time for the unit 2, and H3 is the minimum time for unit 3. So then we see that it is economical to bank unit 2. Why? Because you see that from this graph, how many time is there from 12 to 3?
In 3 hours.
This is equal to 3 hours, 1 to 3 hours. Now, after 3 p.m., what unit should commit? After 3 p.m. up to 4 p.m.?
1 and 2.
Very good.
1 and 2.
Very good. So you see that after 3 p.m., as the load demand is this one, as the load demand is more than megawatt 1 but less than megawatt 2, then unit 2 should commit also. So that means this is the point, 12 p.m. is the point where the unit should is not committed, but after this 3 p.m. the unit 2 should commit. So that means the time difference is 3 hours, and the H time of the unit 2 is also 3 hours. So that means if we shut down, if we let the unit 2 shut down after 12 p.m., then it is not economical, because after 3 hours again we need to commit the unit 2 to generate the electricity. That's why we should put unit 2 in the banking mode after 12 p.m. But if you see this one at 10 p.m., at 10 a.m., what are the units should commit?
All the units.
No, at 10 a.m.
So 1 and 2.
Only
1 and 2.
1 and 2 both.
Because you see at 10 a.m. the load demand is this one. It started the load demand as this one. It is between the megawatt 1 and megawatt 2. So unit 1 and 2 should commit, and unit 3 should be stopped. But should be stopped means should we put in the banking mode or should we put in the this shutdown mode? It depends upon how much time the unit 3 will not commit. Now let's see. After this 10 p.m., again when the unit 3 will commit, this is equal to 4 p.m. Because you see at the 4 p.m. the load demand is again beyond the megawatt 2. So what is the time difference? 11, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. So that means it is economical that after 10 a.m. we should shut down the unit 3, because the unit 3 need to be regenerate the electricity again at 4 p.m. So that means it is totally depend upon this decision, that when it is banking mode, when it will go to the banking mode or when it will go to the shutdown mode, it totally depend upon how much time the unit should not or generate the electricity, or how much time the unit should decommit. So this thing is actually put in a graph, put in a table. So here you see at 9 to 10 a.m., because you see 9 to 10 a.m. load demand is this one. So here you see no confusion is there. All the units should generate the electricity. So unit 1, 2, 3 all should be on. 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. all the unit 1, unit 2 and unit 3 all are on, and they will generate the electricity based on this equal incremental cost basis. Then 10 to 11 as the load demand is below between the megawatt 1 and megawatt 2, so unit 1 and unit 2 should on, and here you see we should put the unit 3 in the off, means in the shutdown mode. Okay, now 11 to 12, so you see 11 to 12 also same. The load demand here is between the unit megawatt 1 and megawatt 2. So unit 2 and 3, unit 1 and 2 should on, and unit 3 should be in the shutdown mode. So which is showing in the third row. The fourth row, 12 to 1 p.m. Here you see in the 12 to 1 p.m. as the load demand goes below the megawatt 1. So that means here only unit 1 should on. Sorry, this one. And in that time, the unit 3 should be off, but that should be unit 2. That should not be unit 1, that should be unit 2. So unit 2 on, but it is in the banking mode. That means unit 2 boiler is on, but it is not able to produce the electricity because the boiler is disconnected from the turbine using a valve. And this phenomena happens up to 3 p.m. So 2 to 3 p.m. again, this same thing is happened. 3 to 4 p.m. So you see 3 to 4 p.m. unit 1 is always on. Unit 2 is now on, started on load, because now the boiler is again connected to the turbine of the unit 2 and it will commit and it will generate the electricity. And unit 3 is off that time. And after this 4 to 5 p.m. all the units should on. Again, we need to generate the electricity through the unit 3. So using this H, that means the minimum time when the shutdown is more economical compared to the banking, because if the unit is in the banking mode, then what happened? Some energy is required. Some energy is required to keep the temperature and pressure as it was. That means some cost is also involved to this one. And if the unit is shut down to increase all the temperature and pressure to generate the electricity, again some cost is required. So when we put some unit in the banking mode or when we put some unit in the shutdown mode, it totally depends upon this time. When this time is economical, we should put in the shutdown mode. When it is not economical, we should put in the banking mode. Okay. Now, next one is the network constants. So what is called the network constant? You see, this is one figure. Here you see two bus are there. This is the bus number 1 where generator 1 and generator 2 are connected. This is bus number 2 where generator 3 is connected and the load is also taken from the bus. Okay, so the transmission network may have an effect on the commitment of this unit. So consider figure 4, assuming that cost of production for G3 is higher than G1 and G2. Here, the cost of production for this unit is more than the G1 and G2. So it is obviously economical that if the load is shared by the G1 and G2, then it is obviously economical, because we need to spend more money if we want to share the load through this G3. The transfer of power from G1 and G2 to the load is limited by transmission capacity of the line. So this is the thing, that it is economical that if the load is shared by the generator G1 and G2, but there is a limitation of the transmission line, because transmission line not designed to transmit infinite amount of power which is required by the load. So it is limited. Some limitation is there because it is protected by the relays and circuit breakers. So everything has a rating. That's why the transmission line has some limited limitation to transmit the electricity. So hence it is probable that more expensive unit G3 is committed. Okay, even though cheaper unit G1 and G2 are available. So that means here we need to take some decision that if the load requirement is increases, then what happened? Instead of taking the load from G1 and G2, we need to commit the G3 also. Why? Because this load demand is not able to satisfied by G1 and G2, not by their generation, but due to the limits of the transmission line. Okay, that's why we need to commit the G3 again, because G3, you see, it is connected in the same bus. So that means it is not depend upon the transmission line. G3 power is not coming to the load through the transmission line, rather this G1 and G2. So this is called the network constraints. So similarly, network interconnection dictate that some unit must run to provide voltage support. Such unit are called must run units. Okay, because you need to maintain the voltage of a particular bus all the time. Okay, we should not keep the G3 switch off all this time, because this is a generator bus. So that means some voltage should be maintained to this bus. So the unit which is maintaining that voltage of a particular bus is called the must run unit, and must run unit must be committed all the time. So such network constant will also affect the decision of the unit to be committed. Okay, so must run unit should also always committed. So you see, there are so many problems are there when we find out which unit will commit, which unit will not commit. That's why this is a very vast problem. Now come to this one. These are the very easy thing, that what is called the fuel constant, what is called the security constant, all these things. If you just read through this one, it can be easily understand. And hydro plant constant, one big paragraphs are there. Actually, the meaning of this hydro plant constant is that when a load is supplied by the mixed power plant, that means part of the load is supplied by the hydro plant, part of the load is supplied by the thermal unit, then when the thermal unit should commit, because the running cost of the hydro plant is very, very low compared to the thermal power. It is generally nil. The running cost are producing the electricity. But the problem is that the hydro plant is not able to generate sufficient amount of electricity which is required by the load center as compared to the thermal power plant. Thermal power plant is able to generate huge amount of electricity compared to the hydro power plant, because the size of the hydro power plant is definitely small compared to the thermal power plant. That's why sometimes in a day when the load requirement is very high, we need to switch on the thermal power plant. So this is called the hydrothermal scheduling. And hydrothermal scheduling is actually a scheduling between the thermal plant and hydro plant. Hydro plant definitely run for all over the day. If the water is available, if the water height is available, then the hydro plant should run, because the cost is very low to generate the electricity through the hydro power plant. But the problem is that it is not able to it is not able to meet the load demand all the times of the day. When peak demands are there, we need to switch on the thermal power plant. So when in a particular time the thermal power plant is on, how much time it will be on, this is actually depend upon this hydrothermal scheduling, and this is called the hydro plant constants. Now come to this one, unit commitment solution method. So you just see the problem, how the problem is big, what are the constants you need to record when you want to program this unit commitment problem. So keeping all these things in mind, there are so many methods are there, and this is an emerging area. Emerging area means till the researcher apply so many technology, the artificial intelligence technology, the machine learning technology, the IoTs, to find out the optimum unit commitment problem, because this area is a very, very challenging area. So in your syllabus, only two methods are there to find out the solution of this unit commitment. One is the priority list method, and the second one is the using a dynamic programming method. Obviously, this priority list method, as I mentioned in the last day, this one is obviously you can do these things, but for a small number of systems. Suppose only 10 units are there or only 5 units are there to meet the load demand. So when the among the 5 unit, which unit at what time commit, which unit is not committed. So we can do this thing using this priority list method if the number of units are small. But if the number of units are very high, if you just think about the grid system, so all the units are now connected to the grid. Maximum 90% of the unit generating units are now connected to the grid. So it's become more than 1,000. So in that more than 1,000, if we just want to apply this priority list method, we are not able to find out the solution. So in that time, we need to go for the dynamic programming method or the DP method. And there we always find out the heuristic solution. That means heuristic solution means The difference between the heuristic solution and the normal, this iterative method is that in the normal iterative method, we consider all the things, means the limits of all these things. Or the normal method, we're taking all the constants like this one. But in the heuristic method, if we want to apply the normal iterative method, it will take a lot of time to solve this one. So that's why, based on this constant, we actually assume these are the condition we need to solve. So the number of equation is drastically reduced, and when the number of equation is limited, based on this assumption, based on these limits of all these generating unit, based on the some conditions, then we can apply the iterative method to solve this one. So that's why it is called a heuristic method. Okay, so today we start with this priority list method, and here you see all these thing, all the rules of the priority list is written here. So just if you just do this example, it will be more clear to you. So construct a priority list for 3 units whose data are given below. Unit 1, 2, 3. So total 3 units are there. Their full load average production cost is also given. The full load average production cost for the unit 1 is 1000 rupees per megawatt hour. For the second one is 850 and the third one is 1040. This is the full load average production cost. Now, the limits is PG mean. The minimum generating capacity of the unit 1 is 150 and the highest one is 500. Similarly, the other 2 units, the limits are also given. And 150 means the unit can generate obviously less than 150, but it is not economical. Okay. Limit means that if the unit 1 generation is less than 150, it will shut down. No, it's not like that. But if a unit is designed to generate some electricity, obviously it will generate a minimum amount of electricity economically. So this economical limit is the 150. A priority order for this unit prepared based on their average production cost is as follow. So as I mentioned, this priority is based on some of the condition. So first condition is that based on their average production cost. So with this condition, if we see that priority 1, 2, 3, this is not the unit number, this is the priority number, priority 1, 2, 3, this is the unit number. First, we always choose the unit 2 because its average production cost is less compared to the 3 among the 3 units. So it has a highest priority. It has a rupees per megawatt hour is 850. Next come unit 1, it has 1000 rupees. Then come unit 3, it has 1040 rupees. So this is our priority based on their average production cost. Okay, so it is important to note that unit with the least priority number is the most economical one. So obviously, which one take less amount of money to generate the electricity, it has obviously in the highest priority list. So hence it is always committed first. So higher number of units are inefficient and uneconomical. Ignoring startup cost, the commitment schedule for defined combination is as follow. So unit combination, unit 2 only. This is the first priority, unit 2. Minimum megawatt form combination is 100. Why? Because you see this unit is able to generate from 100 to 500. So that means if the load requirement is just between the 100 megawatt to 500 megawatt, then unit 2 should commit. Got it?
Yes, sir.
This is just based on the priority. It doesn't need to do any calculation for this one, just based on their average production cost, because we want to save the money. So obviously cost is one of the priority, and based on this one, we find out that if the load demand is between this one, unit 2 should commit. Now, if the minimum load demand combination is 250 to 1000, then unit 2 and 1, priority order 1 and 2 should commit. So how to find out these two limits, 250 and 1000? Just check this one. Here you see for the unit 1, the minimum generation capacity is 150 megawatt. And for the unit 2, it is equal to 100 megawatt. So if you just take the addition, because when the unit 1 and unit 2 will commit, then their minimum generating capacity will become 150 plus 100. That means it's equal to 250. And their maximum generating capacity is 500 plus 500. That means 1000 megawatt. So that means if the load demand is between 250 megawatt to 1000 megawatt, then unit 2 and 1 should commit. And if you just take the addition, when it is between 375 to 1200 megawatt, if you just take the addition of all these things and all these things, it's coming 375, it's become 1200. So if the load demand is between these two limits, then unit 1, 2, 3 all should commit. So based on this one, our commitment rule is very simple. If the load demand is less than equal to 500 megawatt, run unit 2 only. Okay. If the load demand is 500 to this 1000 megawatt, run unit 2 and 1. And if the load demand is more than 1000 megawatt to 1200 megawatt, run unit 2 and 3. Okay. Here PDT means it includes the load demand plus spinning reserve, because we should not generate exactly load demand, because so many losses are there, so many accidents may happen, and that's why due to some accident the plant may be shut down. So that's why we must generate some of the reserve power also, and during this emergency time this reserve power will help us to meet the load demand. So this one is called the spinning reserve. Now this is the algorithm for the priority list method, and that is also very simple. So determine the hourly load forecast for next 24 hour or any other period. So obviously load forecasting should be, we should know the load forecasting, because without the load forecasting, without the load curve, it is impossible to find out the solution for the unit commitment. We must know in prior that in which time we need to generate how much amount of electricity. So obviously some reserve should be there, some plus minus value should be there, but at least we know, at least we have an idea that in a what time of the day the load demand will increase or decrease in what amount. Then prioritize the unit based on their production cost and prepare a table based on the unit combination to meet required load. This table is nothing but that one. Okay, you should prepare a table based on their production cost and how much they will generate. For the first hour, determine the minimum number of units necessary to carry the maximum predicted load and the spinning reserve. Then this one, then compare the number of units running in the present hour with the minimum number of required for the next hour. So all these things is done here, and this is actually the algorithm to find out the unit commitment schedule based on their production cost. Okay, so this thing is also there. Then, so in the next they will start with the dynamic programming method, and there are two types of dynamic programming methods are there. One is DPSC, dynamic programming sequential combination, and second one is DPTC, so dynamic programming truncated combination. Because here you see so many equations are there for unit 1, 2 or 3. If the number of unit is 2, if the number of unit is 3 and 4, so many equations are there. So first we need to delete some of the equation which is not required at least. Then we go for the iterative method to find out this one. And here one example is there, and if you're able to follow this example, then you can understand everything. The example looks like very big, but you see the only one formula is used to find out this one. It actually looks like big, but when you try to do these things by your own hand, it will become more simple. So this thing is required only to find out the solution using the unit commitment using the dynamic programming method. So in the next day, next Monday, we'll start this one.